Good morning.
We're live.
We are. This candle does not want to stay up.
Which is why the tinfoil's there, but it's not really doing its job, is it?
Not really.
Okay, today we light 3 candles. 4 candles.
4 candles.
4 candles. We light our Advent candle. We light the candle of hope. We light the candle of peace. And we light the candle of joy.
Barbie.
Joy.
The candle of Barbie.
Joy.
Isn't Barbie joy?
For some people, but that's not what the symbol is. The symbol isn't we have a pink one because girls or Barbie. It's because joy. So the reason it's pink, and the reason pink is not a symbol of love in this case, but joy, goes back to a thing that was happening in the Middle Ages. I've told you this.
You have.
Every year, I think.
Maybe.
So during the season of Lent, which is an austere time, it's a time of reflection on Jesus' suffering. For some, it's a time to reflect on death. It's a time to prepare for the Passion of the Christ, which is Easter, Jesus' death and resurrection. And in the midst of this, like Lent was a time of fasting, and people were very somber, and it was a dreary time, not just because of all that, but also the weather. And so in the middle of the Lenten season, the third Sunday of Lent, the Pope would remind people of joy, and it became a tradition that the Pope would give out pink flowers, symbolizing like there is still beauty in the world, there is still things to be joyful about. Remember joy in the midst of this time. And so pink became associated with a symbol of joy. And over time, when the Advent tradition was introduced and these candles were given virtues, hope, peace, joy, and love, purple is a royal color. Purple is a color of preparation in the Christian calendar, but they changed the pink one to being the candle for joy. So in many, mostly Protestant that I know of, but a number of churches will have a pink candle lit today because joy is a symbol of the season. Mm-hmm. Yes, except for churches where all of them are red. That's often our Orthodox branch of Christianity, or I believe it's the Orthodox that light the red ones. And then some churches, it's blue, because different churches symbolize things differently.
I'm having a monk moment.
Okay.
Because it's not even on the screen.
But now it's even.
It's still not even, but it's better.
So we've been watching the detective show Monk, and he is somebody who has always struggled with certain interrelational things and OCD. But his wife has died, and it has become acerbated. And last night in the episode we were watching, one of the things he was doing, they were in a break room, and there was a decaf coffee and a caffeinated coffee, and he mixed the two so that the two pots would be level because it was bothering him. That was one of the many antics he did. Okay, today is the 15th. See, it's down here in the corner.
It's like there's no 15.
My finger was covering it. Okay, what will it be?
I'm gonna guess it's gonna be tea.
I think you are right on that. Our 15th day of Advent. Oh, I'm so excited for the name. It is one of my favorite cookies, and mostly because the name is awesome. Can you guess what it is?
Oreo.
I do like Oreo, but it is not Oreo cookies.
It is Snickerdoodle.
It is Snickerdoodle. Oh, this better be our second 5 out of 5 cups of tea, because Snickerdoodle is such a great name. Okay, I'm looking for Snickerdoodle on the list. It's a rooibos.
Okay.
So there's brittle in it, which is made of sugar and hazelnut. There's cinnamon, rooibos, monk fruit, natural flavorings of butterscotch and cinnamon flavoring. That's it. It contains hazelnut.
Okay. Well, good thing neither of us have nut allergies.
Oh, I can't open it though.
Do we need the pin gloves?
I don't know yet.
Nope.
You are strong and mighty. I am just Liz. Speaking of Barbie, now I have a just Ken in my head. It reminds me very much of the sleigh ride smell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I smell the sugar of the brown sugar brittle, but more than, yeah, what was in here again?
What's our steeping time?
It is a 4 to 5 minutes at 200. I don't really smell the hazelnut. I think I might smell the butterscotch, but I didn't really notice the hazelnut.
Okay.
We'll put this one away, back in the box.
They did a really good job with those boxes.
Yeah, like, because how many people actually flip them inside out to make another scene, and it's starting to come together. Very lovely.
Yeah, we only got 9 more days. Three, 2 and 1. Yeah, 9 more days.
9 more days.
Okay. So you had a challenge. You and I had a challenge yesterday.
Did we?
We did. We had finished our devotional yesterday morning, and so we had the challenge of finding a new devotional to start with today.
And I find the U Bible app has a number of really good devotionals, but find the right one for online. So one that's not too long is the first challenge. One that's written in a way that I want to read it. Mm-hmm. One that isn't an exact repeat of the one we just finished. Mm-hmm. There's some really lovely ones, but they'll have very long Bible readings, and that's a good thing. However, we try to keep it fairly short because we are only on here for so long. So I found one that is very different than any that we've done, and I think it might be interesting.
Excuse me for a moment.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of very small particulates in our tea, and this clogged all the holes.
Oh, you need to get like a knife or something just to
Grab a small spoon and just
stir it.
Move around the.
When you come back and sit down, will you move the star over one?
We have 10 days to Christmas.
Okay, so this is called Sydney Jane and the Not Fair Christmas.
Okay.
So this week, for the next 5 days, we have a story of sorts.
Okay.
No, I need to actually go back and say that we're starting this one, not just sampling it. Okay. Change in plans. Christmas is officially ruined, Sydney exclaimed. She ran out of the living room and into her bedroom. She threw herself onto the bed. Muffled tears soaked her pillow. This is so unfair, thought Sydney. No cocoa, no matching pajamas, no presents on Christmas Eve with just Mum and me. Not fair. The door creaked and the mattress sunk. Mum reached for Sydney's hair. Now plastered to her face, strand by strand, Mom pulled back the tear-stained locks and placed them behind Sydney's ear. Sid, I know you're disappointed. I didn't expect Christmas to look like this either. She paused. Sometimes, well, a lot of times, life just isn't fair. Sydney huffed. Life had been a whole lot of not fair lately, and she was tired of it. Sydney lifted her head and turned towards her mom. She rubbed her arm under her nose and asked, What do you mean? Oh, I missed a whole line. She was tired of it. Did you know that the first Christmas wasn't fair? Mom asked. Sydney lifted her head and turned towards her mom, rubbed her arm under her nose and asked, What do you mean the first Christmas wasn't fair? Well, The Virgin Mary was just a teenager when the angel visited her and told her she was going to have a baby. I bet she was scared. Sydney crooked her head and puzzled. Mom continued. Mary had plans to marry Joseph. But what if he didn't want to marry her anymore? What if he didn't understand that the baby was part of God's plan for them? She had to trust God was with her, even when life felt really unfair. Mom cupped her warm hands around her daughter's face. Sydney Jane, sometimes life isn't fair. But even when it is, we can trust God has a plan. Sydney sighed. She knew her mom was right. She still felt sad. Christmas at her G Honey's house. I'm sure that's probably Grandma Honey's. And since I don't like G Honey, seems a little too gangster for me, I'm probably going to just call her Grandma Honey from now on. Grandma Honey's house was an okay way to spend the holidays. It just wasn't what Sydney wanted. Questions. Have you ever had plans that were ruined? How did that make you feel? I was grumpy plans yesterday. It's such a small thing looking back on yesterday. So we were anticipating and have anticipated a family tradition of going to see the Nutcracker. And we specifically chose this theater, this company, because they had the word a Canadian tradition. And a number of the Nutcrackers have been taking liberties with the Nutcracker telling. So we went to this one to experience everything. And we got into the theater, and the architect of the theater that we were at was very frustrating. The chairs, we were very high up, but the chairs between our row and the row in front of us weren't, there were two things that decisions were made. The chairs weren't slightly offset so that I would be looking between the person in front of me. And I've been into a number of places.
Instead of having your head here.
It was right behind the person in front of me. And when they sat down, I stopped being able to see the stage. I saw like 2 inches on one side and 2 inches on the other. And it wasn't just a little block, and it would have been anyone. Only a child could have sat in front of me and me still be able to see. So the height between the rows were not great enough, or the chairs needed to be offset so that you could see between. So I was like, before we even started, I was upset and disappointed.
This is going to be oversteeped because I can't get the water to go through, and it's already past its steeping time.
Okay. So that was my first disappointment. And again, we were going to see the Nutcracker, to see a traditional Nutcracker. I wanted Claire and the uncle. I wanted the dancing. I wanted a number of things. Just a traditional telling of the Nutcracker. And the first dancers came out, and they were dressed up in an 1820s, very Anne of Green Gables style outfit. So I'm like, okay, we're doing a traditional telling. However, they're set in Canada. I can live with this. It's not set in Russia, it's set in Canada. Maybe they'll play hockey halfway through, but it's the Nutcracker. And there was a lot of action. And if I leaned really far close to my sister, I could see what was happening on this stage. But there was a lot of movement that was going, stories that were happening between the two sides of people would come on and wave, and this group would wave, and then there'd be interactions. And there was this one child that kept throwing snowballs. So you had to see them throw the snowball to understand the reaction on this side. And I was missing most of it. So I'd lean really far on this way to see Leanne's side, and then I'd lean really far onto you to see the other side. And I was getting a headache. And they get into what I'm expecting to be the house for the Christmas party, but that doesn't happen. All of a sudden, an orphan shows up and is crying, and then she goes into this not house. They're in an old-fashioned, like, one-room schoolhouse on Christmas Eve, and then some type of trapper comes and gives all the kids wooden carvings, but there is no Nutcracker, and the little girl that we think is an orphan, we still don't understand what was going on there, he doesn't have a gift for, so he gives her a painting, and my first comment was, that's not a Nutcracker. And then much later, she pulls out a Nutcracker from her suitcase. And in the traditional story, it's normally a little brother who plays too rough because he's jealous of the Nutcracker, and he breaks the arm or like breaks it a little bit, and the uncle comes along and repairs it. But in this one, the bully child that's been like rude to everyone all night takes the Nutcracker out of her arm, runs across the room, and throws it in the fire. Which, like, not how the story goes. Not how the story goes. And the orphan child pouts, and all these people are trying to make it up to her, and she just rejects everyone, and she goes over and falls asleep behind a table, and everybody leaves, and the last two people realize she's missing, so they go out to search for her because they think she's run away. And she wakes up and she's alone, and so she falls asleep. So one of the boys that tried to be kind to her left her a bunny, and she wakes up, and it's the magic hour. Only the room doesn't grow. The tree just spins. It's not mice that attack. There's like mice, but it's there's bats and other animals, raccoons, and it was really weird. And then the Nutcracker doesn't come to her rescue. The bunny rabbit comes to life, and they fight everything for a little while. And then the Nutcracker shows up, jumping out of the fire. And then somehow the bunny disappears, and there's this weird thing that looks like spinning tops to come and dance with skipping rope. It was very strange. We still don't know what that was about. And again, the animals aren't just raccoons. None of that makes sense. And then the bunny disappears, and it's just the Nutcracker and the girl. And that was the first half, and I was...
Oh, and the toy soldiers weren't toy soldiers. They were bowling pins that animated and became Mounties.
Oh, yes, because the bowling pin, there was a scene where the kids were bowling, and they were bowling at Mounties. So these bowling pins weren't toy soldiers, they were Mountie, and they used the ball to knock things over. And there was a scene in the party where there was skipping, but the skipping happened before the orphan girl, showed up. I don't understand. Oh, no, I guess she was there. But I thought that was before she came in.
The only thing that was close to an original Nutcracker was the second half where they did the dances. Now, the dances were animals instead of the traditional,
So after they defeat the animals, or defeat the rats that weren't all rats.
Ooh, that is really sweet.
I like it. I like it a lot. Now it's a dessert tea. It's not a
Very
morning
much so.
tea. After all that, they did the dance with the snowflakes, and I thought that was well done. And then the next, the second act, they wake up from the snow into a summer paradise, and somebody comes along with a canoe and takes them to the animal kingdom. And the first dance are these cute little children who did this amazing dance as frogs. And once I accepted that this was not going to be the Nutcracker, I enjoyed each of the dances.
Also, at that point, you'd found a head position that allowed you to see most of the stage.
I spent the rest of the play like this because it was the only way I could see the stage in majority. Yeah. Anyway, I was disappointed. I was wearing grumpy pants. So next question. Do you think it was hard for Mary to trust God? I don't think it was.
No, I don't think so.
I think she had questions because she asked a question. And then once she had an answer that God's going to do it, she just went, okay. But I wonder after that moment, how many times she might have internally went, what did I get myself into?
Yeah. The main reason why I don't think it was difficult was it was a time when everybody followed God, and the angel said, "You've been seen as righteous." So she would have been one who followed the laws closely and would have trusted in God her whole life.
Yeah, maybe that's a good point. I'm wondering because there was a lot going on in Jewish society at the time. They were, yeah. Next question. What can you do to trust God when your life seems unfair? That's honestly when a leap of faith is required.
And lots of prayer.
Prayer.
Listening prayer, very important.
Okay, our prayer today is, Dear God, sometimes my plans don't go... Okay, let's put this in a plural. Dear God, sometimes our plans don't go how we want them to go. Help us to trust you, even when life feels unfair. And here's our scriptures for the day.
Our first scripture is Luke 1. We have read this previously. In the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. The virgin's name was Mary. The angel went to her and said, "Greetings, you who are highly favored. The Lord is with you." Sorry, highly favored, not righteous. I think Joseph was the one who was listed as righteous.
Yes.
Mary was greatly troubled at his words and wondered what kind of greeting this might be. But the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to call him Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever. His kingdom will never end." "How will this be?" Mary asked the angel, "since I am a virgin?" The angel answered, "The Holy Spirit will come on you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the Holy One will be born, will be called the Son of God. Even Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age, and she who was said to be unable to conceive is in her 6th month. For no word from God will ever fail." "I am the Lord's servant," Mary answered. "May your word to me be fulfilled." Then the angel left her.
I know this one. It's a memory verse. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight." Is it Proverbs 3, 4, and 5?
Proverbs 3, 5, and 6.
I was off. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6.
And in this translation, it's "in all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight."
I am really enjoying the tea. I probably will give it a 5. No, it's like a 4, 4.5, 4.25, somewhere in there. Because
I find it too sweet.
you're finding it too sweet, and I'm finding it very cinnamony.
I don't mind the cinnamon. I find the sweet too much. It might be okay, as you said, as a dessert drink. Like if I was expecting the sweet, if I was having it specifically for the sweet, I think it would be more in line with what I was looking for. But to like be surprised with this hit of sweet when I took my first sip was a bit much.
It was, especially because there wasn't a lot of things in there labeled sugar.
It really does. It tastes to me a lot like a watered down hot apple cider.
Yeah, but it doesn't have that same, like the sleigh ride felt more like an apple cider to me. This one feels like an apple cider without the apple.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Like there is a fruit taste, but it's not apple, which I think is the, I don't know, the other one. And I just want to say good morning, Aunt Sharon. So glad you made it on live. I enjoy your comments every day. And I think my original question was going to be, we've been talking a lot about traditions the last few days. Is there an international tradition or a tradition you've seen in somebody else's house that you think is very neat? Maybe one that you'd want to adopt, but it doesn't feel quite right. And I have one.
So the one that I've heard of, and I don't know where I heard of it, so I don't know specifically where it came from. But one that I'd heard of was as a Christmas Eve tradition rather than a Christmas
You're going to
tradition.
get the one I want, and I can tell you where it's from if it's the one I think.
Is after everything's done, the whole family gets ready for bed in pajamas, sits down around the Christmas tree, and reviews over the important aspects of the year and talks about either what they were thankful for within the year or how God was with them throughout the year. Like the one or two like major things that has happened in the year.
Reflect on the year?
Yeah, like
That's neat.
Yeah.
That's not the one I thought you were gonna do. But the one I'm thinking of also happens on Christmas Eve. It's a tradition out of Iceland, and it doesn't quite. Well, it could work if we didn't do some of the other things we do on Christmas Eve. We have our own Christmas Eve. We do our church service, and now we drive to where my parents are. We have a mini feast, and then we watch Alistair Sim's Christmas Carol.
Mm-hmm.
That is Christmas Eve. In Iceland, they have the tradition of everybody gives somebody a book.
Oh, yes. I know this one.
And so everybody is given a book, and you spend the rest of the night cozy before a fire just reading. And Iceland has the greatest book sales per capita out of any country in the world. However, all of the sales for books are sold, or the majority of book sales happen in November and December.
In preparation for Christmas.
In preparation for Christmas. So I love it. It sounds like this beautiful tradition that I would really enjoy, but it doesn't fit with how we already do it. But if I was to make an adjustment, I think that would be one that I think would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it would be hard for us to do because often, well, because of the distance, we finish church service and then we drive to your parents' place.
Yeah,
and
that's
by the time we get there, generally everyone's already very, very tired.
Last year being our first Christmas coming from Kingston to there.
Yeah, we're gonna try and make it a little bit better.
Yeah. So last year, everybody came here. We all did Christmas Eve, and then we debated about, do we eat here or go there? And so then we got into cars and drove home, and we took longer leaving Kingston than we had planned. So we didn't get home until like 9.
I thought it was closer to 10.
No, it was closer to 9:30. But then we had to cook, which meant we didn't eat food until 10. And there was something you had to go back to the old house for. And like, it was just, I don't even think we watched the movie.
I think we started it and then half the people fell asleep.
I think you're right. And then I had to wait till everybody was asleep. And then I wrapped gifts. It was such a long night. We're going to do things differently this year.
Yes, we might pre-wrap some of the gifts.
Not wrap gifts on Christmas Eve? I think that might be wise. Okay, so what is a tradition you've heard of, maybe from another family, like the one Alex suggested, or one like the one from Iceland, and would love to add in? Maybe it just doesn't fit, but you think it's a very neat tradition. So that's today's question. So 2 days ago, the question was, what's a favorite childhood tradition? What's one that you've developed maybe in adulthood or has been added based on where you've moved? Or like when you move, you just have to change how things are done. We have to add in the travel and stuff. So, and then this one is, what are some other traditions that you have heard from around the world?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know where we're at on this one, but I think we can do, now we have, our next plan is to get ready and we're going to head to the church because it's Sunday. It is the third Sunday of Advent, the Sunday of joy. We are going to have a great day.
We are. We're going to pick up a cake today.
Oh, there's a cute little white puppy walking and its little feet are going ta-ta-ta-ta-ta because it's so cold. And the sunrise is here and it's like this light purple throughout the blue gray. It's a lovely day. Mm-hmm. I hope you also have a lovely, happy day. I love a good brunch, Aunt Sharon. Yeah. We had brunch yesterday with my folks and my sister before we had headed to the ballet. And that was the highlight of the day. Oh, and then we went to a restaurant that had really good gluten-free pasta, which was equally happy for me.
And I had a second brunch because they had late breakfast until 4 p.m. and we got there with 15 minutes to spare, so I got to have a second breakfast.
Good times had. There are things to be joyful about.
Exactly.
Okay. Friends, we'll see you tomorrow. Merry day. Happy Advent. Happy Sunday. And we'll see you tomorrow.